In the previous class, we have learned how to install Python, how to use idle to write and execute a code. In this class, we will learn about the code structure in Python. But before that, let us understand what Python really is, and how it actually works. If I say, x equals y, you can easily understand that x and y are same things. If x has a value of 5, y should also have a value of 5. But a computer does not understand this simple sentence. The hardwares in a computer, or its electronic circuits, can only understand zeros and ones. We call it a binary code. If you convert or translate this sentence into an equivalent binary code, the computer can easily understand that. But it is very difficult for us to translate such sentence into binary codes. And if we are talking about large programs, then it is humanly impossible to translate all these lines into binary language. So, we need a translator, or an interpreter, to convert our instructions into binary. That is exactly what Python or any programming language does. Python interprets our code, and converts it into a binary code that the machine can understand. That is why Python is called an interpreter. An interpreter takes one instruction at a time from our code, translates it into machine language and executes it. There are other programming languages such as C, which takes the whole code and converts it into a machine-readable format. We call them compilers. They both do a similar job. Let us look at this sample code. Python can translate our code, if it itself can first understand it. So, we need to follow a particular coding structure that Python can understand. A typical Python program starts with some import statements and package names. A package or a library is simply another set of Python programs, or another code file, written by experienced programmers. By doing an import, we can use all the functionalities of that package. In order to access its contents, we need to use the package name, then a dot, and the component name that we want to access. If there are contents within a content, we just simply use another dot to go into it. You may notice that we have used brackets in this case, and not in the first case. It depends on whether the component that we are trying to access is a function or non-function component. We will learn more about this later, but what we understand so far is that we can reduce our coding effort to a big extent by using existing packages. For example, this program contains just 5 lines of code, but it can produce a beautiful pie chart in the output. We just imported an existing package called matplotlib and used its functionalities here. This is one big strength of Python. There are thousands, or maybe millions of such libraries in Python, written by professionals, and freely available to all. When you code in Python, you just import whichever library you need to use. You can see some red lines like this in a Python code. These lines are called comments. They are not part of the actual code. These lines are added as a description of our code, to improve the readability. Python completely ignores these lines. You can write anything you like. In a comment, there are no restrictions. To write a comment, first type a hash, then put your comment. If Python finds a hash on any line, it ignores rest of the content for that line. It is generally a good idea to add sufficient comments into your code so that anyone looking at your code can easily understand its purpose and the logic used in the code. You can see that the word import is highlighted in orange. This is called a keyword in Python. A keyword is a word that has a special meaning. For example, when you say import, it indicates an action for Python to get the source code of this package. Likewise, there are more keywords. For example, and is a keyword. If is a keyword. For is a keyword. In is a keyword. Keywords are reserved for their specific purpose only. You cannot use them for anything else. For example, you cannot use them for a variable name, it will throw an error. But what is a variable name? A variable is an entity whose value can differ or which can assume different values at different times. Like a date is a variable, you can put any date in this variable. A month is a variable, it can have 12 different values. Here today is a variable. In contrast, this number 6 is a constant. 6 can only have a value of 6, it cannot have a value of 5 or 7. So 6 is a constant. 12 is a constant. These are numeric constants. Then there are strings of letters within quotation marks like this. This is also a constant, we call it a literal constant. While talking about variables and constants, please note that Python is case sensitive, like any other programming language. Import is not same as import with a capital I. A date variable is not same as a date variable with a capital D, so Python will consider them as two different variables. Use of a capital letter is actually very limited, mostly all are in lower cases. In a nutshell, you can say that a Python program is literally a collection of keywords, variables, and operators. Operators are special symbols. Like this equal sign is an operator. Minus is an operator. A dot is also an operator. These operators result in an action with the variables they are applied to. In a sense, even an operator can be also called a keyword, reserved for special action in Python. But they are symbols instead of words, that is the only difference. Now, the last thing I will briefly cover is indentation in Python. Indentation means how much space you leave between the left end and the start of a sentence. You cannot indent a line as you wish, even a single extra space will cause an error. This rule does not apply to comments because Python will ignore the comments, but all other statements must follow this rule. Python is very strict about this. Normally, all your lines should start from the very beginning. But when you have a block, or a group of statements, or a multi-line statement, you will indent the lines under the first line. We will learn later what is a block or a multi-line statement. But for now, just understand, or keep it affixed in your mind, that appropriate indentation is very important in Python. Leave only as much space as permitted in the beginning of a line, nothing more and nothing less. For a beginner in Python, inaccurate indentation in the code is the #1 source of an error. So in this class, we learned about import in packages, variables and keywords, what is an operator, and what is indentation. I have added some exercises below, you can try them. In the next class, we will use these in a real hands-on example. We will build a program with a basic input and output in Python. I hope you like this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel.